Car chases are dangerous and unpredictable. Viewer discretion advised.
I'm going to welcome all of our viewers to an early edition of KCAL 9 News at 4 o'clock. We are following breaking news. This is the pursuit of a suspected drunk driver. This began in Rialto right around 3 o'clock this afternoon. This driver leading officers on this chase for almost an hour. We have seen this driver taunting officers, or at least what appeared to be taunting these officers as he rolled down the window. At one point, he threw a bag out. Another time, we could see him drinking from a can. We don't know what was in that can. Then he dropped the can in front of the officers. At another point, he rolled down the window and seemed to be motioning to the officers to come forward. We then learned that a 911 caller called in and said that they saw a small child on this driver's lap. Now, we have not been able to get a good look inside this car because the windows are so dark, but we did see something there in that area of almost of the center console area that was white. It looked to me, Sarah, as if it was a white bag, maybe a plastic bag. I could see it flapping with the air coming in from the window, but I did not suspect at that point that it would be a child. And then to hear that a 911 caller said that they saw a child really just changed everything.
Oh, absolutely. I know the situation in Diamond Bar was similar, where no one, including the deputies who were chasing that suspect, could actually see a child inside. They suspected at one point the child may have been in the trunk of the car in that situation. An incredibly disturbing chase that we covered live for you here on KCAL 9 several weeks ago. Now, Desmond, with this pursuit, we see sometimes CHP, we see deputies, we see various police departments try and creep up as best they can to the car to get a better look inside, perhaps determine whether or not there is a child in the car. Have we seen much of that throughout this pursuit?
No, we haven't seen them get, right up next to the vehicle, and unfortunately wouldn't do any good anyway because the windows of the vehicle are pitch black. But let's see what happens now. We're getting off of the freeway. We're getting off at Broadway, so we're in Santa Ana, just south of the Orange Crush, and coming up to a stoplight. And if hope we're kind of at this point. Well, I'm not sure if I hope he stays on the freeway or off the freeway. It's not confirmed that there's a child in the car, but it's going to make CHP very hesitant to do anything if they do suspect that. They're not going to want to do a pit maneuver, especially because the call into CHP was not just that there was a child in the car, but that supposedly he had him on his lap. So, it's kind of a what are they going to do situation here. They may have an opportunity to do spike strips. I'm sure that there's a lot of work being done now with Santa Ana PD and informing them that they are, in their jurisdiction. Like, look, we have this pursuit. It's come a really, really long way. But okay, now and here we go. And so we just heard Sarah and Amy that they did request a pit maneuver, and that was denied. So they have to get the permission from a higher up, and they did not get permission to do that. So very, very frustrating to CHP because obviously they want to bring this to an end, but they have a lot to consider now at this point. Okay, actually, a correction. They denied it due to traffic, and we do have some pretty congested streets. Look at kind of setting up like he wants to do the pit maneuver, but it was denied. So maybe he's just trying to kind of creep up to see if he can see inside the vehicle. But all the windows, well, actually the window's kind of down at this point. Setting up for a left-hand turn at 17th and Flower Street. So we're in Santa Ana on the edge of Garden Grove, west of the 5 freeway. A very, very frustrating situation here for CHP.
And, Desmond, I have to say I was a little surprised that this driver at every intersection has really stopped and didn't run through the light. Seems to be following, but you can see that CHP cruiser right there on the tail.
That'd be pretty fast to try a pit.
He just wanted to do, he just ripped his bumper off.
Yep, there goes the back bumper.
Obviously they got the clearance. They got the clearance to do the pit maneuver there, but unfortunately just the way he hit it, he kind of caught the bumper and ripped it off. So
I'm surprised because that was a little bit faster than they like to go when they approve pit maneuvers. I think if the speed tracker was correct, it was in excess of 40 miles per hour when they tried that. So, Desmond, they have guidance. They don't like to publicize that guidance, but they have guidance that tells them when it's safe to perform a pit maneuver like that. So that was pretty fast.
It was.
Yeah, it was. And we heard them, trying to get the permission. So, you know, you had the officer, you know, communicating through the dispatcher, you know, can I do this? Can I do this now? And at first he did not have permission when he got off the freeway, but obviously, you know, they determined at that moment that they had an opportunity. But this is really tough. I mean, look at how much traffic there is around here at this point. You know, we're approaching Friday rush hour, past 4 o'clock. And is this going to make the suspect more desperate now that he sees that CHP has suddenly more of a determination to bring this to an end? Is he going to continue to kind of cruise around like he was on the freeway, or is it going to agitate him and, you know, him start speeding up? And we saw him, you know, do that maneuver earlier where he kind of went around traffic all the way to the right to, you know, make that wide left turn in front of people. So it is definitely getting more dangerous now as we're on surface streets of Santa Ana.
Absolutely, and it has been somewhat comforting to see that this driver has stopped at the red lights and hasn't been too reckless when he's stopped around other cars. But, you know, you just can't help but think if there is a child in that car, what is going on inside that car, and that attempted pit maneuver. As you mentioned, Desmond, you just don't know what that might spark in that driver. Will he become more desperate? Again, this is a driver that is suspected of being under the influence, and you just don't know what he might be willing to do at this point.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting to me, Desmond, this pursuit started in Rialto. We're in Garden Grove now. That's more than 50 miles away. This has been going on for quite a while. We've been covering it for you. We do want to welcome our viewers to KCAL 9 News at 4 o'clock. I'm Sarah Donchi alongside my colleague Amy Johnson. Desmond has been watching this from the sky. This has been going on quite a while. I have to imagine the CHP deputies want to put this to an end, but they have so many factors they have to consider. And now that we're on surface streets in a really busy part of Garden Grove, there are people walking around, there are cars stopped. It's probably going to be pretty tricky for them to do that. But I imagine that when they see a window, they'll probably try again.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if they could just get on a surface street that's not particularly crowded and is not a narrow residential surface street. You know, we haven't been on any narrow streets. We've been pretty much on major streets the entire time. Now on Santa Ana Boulevard. At this moment, it looks like a pretty good opportunity, but we'll just have to see. You know, as we see the units creep closer, that's generally when that tells you that they're wanting to set up to do a pit maneuver. And the bumper now missing as well off this vehicle. Unfortunately, it was just was off by just a couple of degrees when they came in with that last pit maneuver and just unfortunately ripped the bumper right off. As we're now on Grand Avenue, looks like we're headed southbound, so really getting into the heart of Santa Ana where there are some congested streets. As I look ahead, not too much traffic on Grand Avenue itself, and well, we're up at about 50 miles an hour. So, you know, kind of semi-dangerous here on these surface streets as far as speeds are going.
And he does seem a little more aggressive, Desmond. A little earlier, he seemed to be stopping behind the cars. Now he is making sure he gets out of that intersection, running through stop signs, red lights, going around the traffic, it seems. And just as I say that, he stops at another intersection and takes off. But you just don't know how desperate this driver is at this point after more than an hour of this pursuit.
Yeah, you know, stopping at one red light and then blowing through a stop sign at another one, and, you know, going under the speed limit at one moment and then, you know, throwing litter out the window the next. Now here's the window down and just all the way in here to try and see. I see the white thing that you're talking about. You know, if that's what is that? Is that a child wrapped up in a blanket, or I can't tell if it's on his lap or if it's kind of sitting near the center console. There was just that one call into CHP potentially about that. He does have something hanging from the mirror as well, but just below that there's it kind of looks like a blanket or something, and he's smoking now. Okay, it looks like he's smoking and ashing a cigarette there.
Well, we hope that was a mistake. I could see how somebody might see that object and think that it was a child, and we certainly are hoping that's a mistake. But with the tint as dark as it is, there's no way that's legal tint. With the tint as dark as it is, it's really hard to tell. And, you know, I would have to believe that CHP has done their due diligence to try and determine whether or not there is a child in the car. Even if we can't see them, you know, they have air assets, they have other units on the ground. They may have gotten a better look into the car here. And certainly if there was a child in the car, there would be a number of things that they would have to consider. And it may even be that they might pull back a bit. I haven't seen that in the time that we've been covering this in the last few minutes. But, you know, Amy, of course, that adds a level of anxiety to these pursuits. We certainly want this to end quickly and safely above all.
We certainly do, but the options are very limited for these officers because they do have to be very careful if, in fact, there is a child in there. But even if not, they want to be safe for everyone that is in the area. And, you know, pit maneuvers and spike strips are not always an option for them, but it does look at this point like the driver is slowing down, and we would like to believe that the driver is coming to a stop, but this is a chance when we can kind of look through that front windshield and
just
now
when you have a bit of hope that they're going to stop, this person just keeps on going. And they've done a few things, Des, I think we're still in Garden Grove, but they've done a few things like that where it looks like for a second they really are trying to get away, and then they slow down again.
Yeah, there's really zero hope of this person getting away. Here you see, I believe, Santa Ana PD that is here as well, and looks like that may be possibly a law enforcement motorcycle. So, and there, yeah, look at him. He's actually out with weapons drawn,
right?
Just waiting as they wait at this red light. So we've got multiple agencies getting involved in this one, but there's no reason to believe that this person is giving up right now, just sitting at a red light, and just see how long they sit here, out here with weapons drawn, like conducting what they would call a felony stop. But this person doesn't have their hands out the window, and I think the engine's still running, so there's no indication that he is going to be giving up. And they actually did bring another chopper in overhead. This is now Anaheim Police with their chopper overhead. It goes by the call sign Angel. They're overhead on this one as well. So really zero chance for this person to get out here. You see a little bit of smoke
an arm out of the window.
The window. Yeah, an arm, and he was ashing what looked like a cigarette earlier, and
Desmond, if we
see a little bit of smoke coming out there, but.
If we are off of Cabrillo Park Drive and First, that would be right off of right outside of the 5 freeway. Is that where we are? If you could give us a bit of a locator here.
Yeah, we're actually we're just over on the east side of the 5, but we're looking on the west side of the 5 freeway. And there we go with making a right-hand turn now as the light. It was looking like maybe he was waiting for the light to turn so he could turn left, and then he decided to turn right. So there we go, going over the 5. So actually we were just on the east side of the 5, and look at that. Now deciding to get back onto the southbound 5. So a little bit of meter traffic here. This is where you're supposed to wait for the light to turn to, but he just blows right by that. Southbound on the 5, and we'll be through the 55 and then into the city of Irvine.
And, you know, Desmond, this again reminded me of the earlier times when it appears that this driver is just taunting these officers, you know, rolling down that window, putting the arm out. You just wonder, you know, what he is saying, if anything, to these officers that are nearby. And then, you know, it appears that he's going to give up and then took off again. Now, we're showing you video of earlier, and that is when officers do a pit maneuver. This was at a pretty fast rate of speed for a pit maneuver. They were able to catch the back of the car and knocked off the back bumper, Sarah. But of course, the car did not stop. And really, they're just hoping that this driver runs out of gas or gives up because, you know, the pit maneuver and the spike strips are certainly difficult, especially if there is a child in this car.
Yeah, just to let our viewers know, that was some video from earlier. Right now, the pursuit is on the freeway. We're going to get back to live pictures in just a moment. But that was just one of the many tense moments here that since we've been covering this pursuit that started in Rialto, very, very far away, more than 50 miles away from where the pursuit is now. At last check, the driver had gotten on to the 55 freeway. You know, Amy, the 55 gets a little bit crowded. You can take the 55 down to the beach cities, and it tends to get a little bit crowded. We're back to live pictures right now. So, Desmond, now that we have you back, can you tell us exactly where you are now?
Yeah, so they actually got off at the next exit here. This is Newport Avenue, so right off of the 555 interchange. and you see all of the units involved, including a motorcycle officer, which we do not see very often on these pursuits. If that is a Anaheim PD or a CHP, I'm not clear, but you see all of the units involved in this one. Hopefully just looking for the perfect opportunity to do a pit maneuver, but it's just so strange the tactics of this. A suspect, sitting at red lights and other times, blowing through stop signs. He has to know there's no getting away. So if perhaps he's headed somewhere where he wants to bring this to an end, maybe in front of friends or family, not an uncommon thing that we see with suspects. Okay, and now making another U-turn, just as he definitely seems to want to keep it to the freeway. We'll see if he decides to get back on and off of Newport Avenue. I believe there is a ramp. No, turning around again.
Oh boy.
So we're just kind of going in circles.
So we're in
back
Tustin.
southbound on Newport Avenue.
Are we in Tustin here, Desmond?
Yeah, city of Tustin.
And
Yeah,
wonder
on the border of Tustin and Costa Mesa.
if this driver is familiar with the area or not, and just trying to figure out his next move, which way he wants to go, if he should get back on a freeway. It's always interesting to find out later if, in fact, the driver is familiar with the area or not. And this is certainly a long way away, as you mentioned, Sarah, from where this all began in Rialto more than an hour ago.
Right. Yeah, and just because we're in Orange County, the streets are a little wider than when we're following these pursuits in the heart of Los Angeles, for example. These are some busy surface streets in Tustin, obviously Costa Mesa, very busy shopping and eating district over there. A lot of people out walking around on their lunch break, a lot of shopping centers. So just because there's a little bit more room to navigate than some of the other pursuits we've covered in the last few weeks, it doesn't mean that it's not incredibly dangerous, not just for the officers and the deputies who are pursuing the suspect, but for the people who are just going about their day. And Desmond, you're right. It looks like this suspect has been trying to hop on and off the freeway. I don't know if they're trying to evade the officers, but it's really difficult to get into the mind of a suspect, especially given the suspected DUI here. We don't know what this person was drinking. We saw them tossing cans out of the window earlier. We've been replaying that video, but this person has been behaving erratically, to say the least, Desmond.
Yeah, very erratically. For the first probably half of the pursuit was
As Desmond was
pursued, cruising. You guys have me?
We do, Desmond. I was going to pick up from what you were saying that the driver was really controlled at one point, going high rates of speed, but really for the most part was following the proper speed and stopping at the intersection. So now we see this driver now pulling into what looks like another parking lot, a gas station.
Yeah, pulling into a gas station and using his turn signal too. So it's just very weird as well. I mean, is there really any attempt here to evade officers, or is he just dragging this out as long as he can? Whoa, a little nerve-wracking here with folks in this shopping center.
Oh gosh.
And they're just out here, finishing some shopping, and now here comes this guy, and they're like, "What's going on?"
Right.
And now they see all of the units behind them, and they're like, "Oh wow." This is actually a pursuit going on right in front of my eyes. So certainly nerve-wracking for people out here at this point. And it's very confounding what this suspect is doing if he's just trying to drag this out. And I'm guessing that CHP is perhaps determined at this point that there's not a child in the car, just based on we saw them trying to do that pit maneuver earlier.
Right. That makes
a
lot of sense.
They're waiting for, and if they're just waiting for another opportunity to initiate that.
Yeah, this is
course,
Walnut
now
and Red Hill in Tustin. I mentioned the shopping centers. There are a lot of shopping centers down here in Tustin, just like that, where you have, an anchor store or whatever, and you have some smaller businesses surrounding, and a lot of people who walk around, do their errands there, what have you. And Desmond, I could tell in your voice that you were a little bit anxious when that was happening, and so was I, because that's where we really see some problematic situations. It's dangerous for drivers. It's really dangerous for pedestrians to be caught up in a situation like this.
Now, Desmond, is the passenger side window down at this point? Is that what I'm noticing?
Yeah, it is down. We're still kind of in a complicated airspace area now with John Wayne, and so we're trying to coordinate with them. And once hopefully we get out of this particularly bad spot for us, we can give you a better shot. But just to let you know, that's why we're kind of shooting a little farther out the lens right now, because we're basically on the final approach for John Wayne Airport, and they've got, you know, planes coming in for landing, so we have to wait for those planes to get by, and then we can get closer, and we'll see if we can get another, you know, better look inside this vehicle, maybe drop a little bit of altitude if possible. But going kind of creeping back towards the freeway, and I think that I'm just thinking that this person is just kind of dragging things out at this point, not making any real serious attempt to get away. They've got to know that the jig is up eventually, so if they're just going to enjoy these last bits of freedom and burn whatever gas is in the tank, that certainly seems to be how this one is going. We haven't seen the suspect on the phone at all. We saw him throw a bag out the window, smoking a cigarette, drinking something, and then throwing that can out right in front of officers. Very, very weird demeanor. A lot of times with these suspects, there's, you know, some other underlying issue as far as, you know, outstanding charges or warrants or things like that. And, you know, we also had the report earlier that this person may have actually called 911 on themselves. That was some of the radio traffic that we heard, one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard. And now looking like maybe he's going to go northbound on the 5. You see CHP actually going the wrong way. Well, we can get to the other side here, because I'm just noticing CHP as they're going, I saw them go the wrong way under that bridge. Maybe they're going to see if they can pin him in before he gets back on the freeway.
Right, that's certainly,
so
you
bear
know,
with us. Here's
the 5. Once he gets on the 5, they're, you know, that person has the ability, if they're going north or south, they can really end up anywhere. The 55, of course, ends down in Newport if he was to head southbound. But I really don't know, Desmond, if there is an end game here, or Amy, because, you know, Amy, you've been covering this pursuit for how long now, and we've just seen sort of circles and aimless driving at this point.
Almost an hour and 20 minutes, and it seems that they're taking a lot of time underneath this overpass. So you wonder if this might be the time that this driver is deciding to stop, or once again really taunting officers and stopping for a while and then takes off again. It's just really been unpredictable, and we see it right there.
North 5,
heading,
turn around.
Heading back on the northbound 5
right
after just waiting. And I would think with that long break there where he's sitting there, officers are able to see in and know whether or not there is in fact a child in that car. At least you hope that. I know the windows are dark, but they have better resources than we do at times to see what's really going on inside a car. But I really think that this person is going to have to run out of gas, or really just decide it's time to stop, because he has been keeping them on this pursuit for an hour and 20 minutes. Again, it started in Rialto and gone through, you know, the Inland Empire, LA County, and now Orange County. And it has been a very interesting pursuit. As Desmond was mentioning, there were early reports that this person might have called 911 themselves, saying that they were drinking and now driving after leaving a bar. But we were not able to confirm that just yet. But we do know another 911 caller said that they saw a small child in the car. We are not able to see a small child in that car, but this person is suspected of driving under the influence and just does not want to stop for these officers.
Yeah, Desmond, so we're going northbound, I believe, on the 5 freeway right now, which could take us up eventually up into the Anaheim area once again. So again, doing circles in a sense, sort of covering the gamut of cities in Orange County. Did he just hop over to the 55?
Yeah, hopping up to the 55 freeway, so headed through back towards Tustin and Santa Ana. Kind of did that at the last second, and again, we're right on John Wayne's final approach. We'll see if we can get to the other side of the freeway. But this has been really difficult, not just for officers, but for us to keep up with this one, just because of where this person decided to, you know, run from the police. So bear with us here as we come back around, but was going towards the northbound 55, should be coming up the here at just any moment. Actually, this is going to take him, well, no, he decided to get off the freeway. I think this is going to be 17th Street or 4th Street, my map is saying. So, yeah, really squirrely driving here for sure. Looking like he's going to get on the freeway and then getting back off surface streets, and it makes it really difficult for officers to try to, I mean, if they've made the determination that there is actually no child in the car, then, you know, more options are back on the table if they want to use spike strips. We were sitting in Santa Ana for a really long time. I have to imagine that dispatchers were trying to coordinate with Santa Ana and Garden Grove PD about maybe, having any spike strips available. These officers probably did not have any spike strips in their vehicles. And let's see if that motorcycle was still on this one as well. The motorcycle may have dropped out. But we're on 4th Street, so back in, crowded area of Santa Ana, coming now westbound away from the 55 freeway.
And again, we see this driver stopping at a red light. And, a lot of times I think our viewers see this and they wonder, well, why aren't they, pulling in front of him and blocking him in? But that is against protocol. They do not get in front of the other officers in case of line of fire if they were to open fire. And so that is not something that they do. We are showing you on the right side of the screen earlier video in which we saw the driver throw a bag out of the window. Then we just see him dropping a can. We do not know what type of can that is, but we did see him drinking from that can before then dropping it right in front of those officers. Sarah, it really looked like he was just taunting those officers, as we keep seeing him do as he stops and takes a little break and then takes off again.
Right. So if we are on West 4th Street, Desmond, he presumably could take that to downtown Santa Ana, obviously very busy area down there, or back to one of the freeways. You have the 5, you have the 55. If he was to head northbound, he could head up to the 22. So any number of directions here. And it's been hard to predict what this driver is going to do, but it looks like CHP may be
here we go again, another pit maneuver.
There we go.
Oh,
Textbook.
Whoa. Look at this, still going backwards here. Oh, well, a very successful pit maneuver. Incredibly, nobody
doors open
in the way, and look at that.
Hands up.
And it looks like he is out. He is out of the car, and that was all it took. CHP finally found the perfect opportunity to do that pit maneuver, and that was a fantastic one. It didn't crash into any other vehicles. There were no pedestrians out there. Perfectly executed. So now he's out walking around, but he's walking around without his hands up. So this situation is still pretty tense. In fact, he's okay. There we go. Now his hands are up, and we're starting to see some compliance here just off of 4th Street. And
what a pit maneuver that was, Desmond. I did breathe a sigh of relief because the car was skidding out of control there. And had there been a pedestrian on that sidewalk or walking there in this area just to the left of our screen here, that could have been bad. But I assume that CHP had eyes overhead and they gave clearance because they knew that there was relatively low risk of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. They were sitting at that light long enough that they were, able to look ahead and see everything and basically connect the dots and say, okay, I think this is going to be a pretty good opportunity, especially coming away from a red light at low speeds, and it really doesn't get any more perfect than that. But now he had his hands up, and now he's just kind of sitting on the sidewalk. Not exactly compliant. I mean, we're glad that he's out of the car, but they're giving him commands right now to, put his hands above his head and show him if he has anything along his waistline, and he's just completely ignoring them. You see them out here with less than lethal force drawn, and we'll see how long this kind of odd standoff continues.
Well, Desmond, it kind of goes with what we've been seeing all along, where it almost seems like he's taunting these officers. They're telling him to, raise his hands. He sits down, hands are on the ground, and it's almost as if there aren't officers there at all. And you have to wonder if this is because he was, in fact, under the influence. We're showing our viewers on the right here that pit maneuver again, so you can see exactly how that went down. But really just a perfectly executed pit maneuver there.
Yeah, absolute perfection. And now we see CHP with their less than lethal force out here. You see that rifle right there that has a red strap. And so that may be a beanbag gun. We saw an officer what looked like he was holding a taser in his hand. They don't have any reason to believe that this person is armed, but it's unclear if this person has a knife in their waistband or a gun or anything like that. So they're not just going to immediately rush in. And these officers, they want to give these suspects every opportunity to comply. If that takes 5 seconds or an hour. They will give them a lot of leeway because they want to be absolutely sure that they're following protocol in a situation like this. But yeah, this guy, not even looking at it, just kind of gazing towards the right and extremely casual. Does make you wonder. When we say under the influence, that could be a lot of things. It could, if it's alcohol or if it's narcotics, and that was what initiated this chase out of Rialto and into LA County, now into Orange County. But it's not often that we see suspects just be this brazen, especially after the pit maneuver and getting out of the car and acting like they want to surrender, and then no, I'm just going to sit out here on the sidewalk and
incredibly
enjoy
casual given the
Orange County.
circumstances that are playing out right before our eyes here live on this edition of KCAL 9 News at 4 o'clock. Desmond, I do want to give our viewers a bit of an update. So I believe if we're on 4th Street in Santa Ana between Tustin and Cabrillo Park, we're not far off the freeway. And he didn't make it very far, it seemed, when he got off of the freeway there, off of the 55. Is that where we are right now?
Yes, yeah, you're correct, Sarah. We're just, I'd say, maybe 500 feet or so west of the 55 freeway. So very, very close to lanes. A lot of office parks here. A lot of folks, getting out of work right now, and they get out to their vehicle, and they may not be able to get on the street because this guy's decided that he just wants to basically be as aggravating to officers as he possibly can by sitting out here. And I'll just widen out to show you the officers standing by and still, shouting commands to him, waving him back. You saw the officer there in the middle, trying to motion him to come back. So they may have to maybe wait for a unit to get out here with a shield or something before they want to come over, or a crisis negotiator. Well, now he's got his hands up behind his head, so maybe he just needed let's hope that he just needed a few minutes to, cool down and collect himself, and that he is going to surrender here. But if he is, he's taking a very roundabout way of doing it, if that's what he's doing.
I know that you were keeping the camera on this suspect. Have you seen any movement at all towards that car? We had reports, as many of our viewers have heard us talking about the chance that there was a child in that car. A 911 caller said that they saw a small child on this driver's lap during this pursuit. We were not able to see a child in the car. The windows are very dark. Have you seen any movement at all around the car, as if someone might be trying to look and see if there's anyone else in the car?
Yeah, haven't seen any movement around the car or anyone approaching the car. But now, okay, this is, well, he should be walking backwards towards officers. And look at, now you see we see the canine officer, or the canine unit out here, and a lot of times you get that that canine out there snarling, and that's what it takes a lot of times for these guys to finally hang it up. And here we go, finally deciding to surrender. He just needed a few minutes. He knew the jig was up and wanted a few more minutes by himself before he finally gave this one up. They're going to come over to the vehicle now. We'll try to see if we can get to the south side of the car and watch the officers clear the vehicle, and then we will finally have an answer as to whether there was a child.
I have to say, it doesn't seem that they're behaving in a way, Desmond, we don't know for sure, but it doesn't seem that they're behaving in a way that would suggest that they actually believe that there is a child in the car. We've seen that happen. We see them rush over. We see them make that a priority. We haven't seen that here. So I suspect that they have some reason to believe that there is not a child in the car. We certainly hope for that as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Sarah. And we're going to see them come to the side here shortly. Unfortunately, we are running on fumes as far as fuel, so I'm not sure if we're going to have time to get the officers clearing the vehicle. We'll try to see if we can stay with this one for just maybe 30 more seconds. And they should be coming to the vehicle shortly now that they have the suspect in cuffs. But you see, well, they're still actually out here with weapons drawn. So let's just try to give it a few more seconds here.
Now, this is
trying to get a better look, but the window is up on this side.
You can see those windows are so dark, Desmond. You can hardly see anything in there.
That looks like limo tint to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thankful that there, was no one out here, no other cars out at this juncture or any pedestrians, and it presented the perfect opportunity for CHP to bring this one to an end. That forceful and totally successful pit maneuver. we'll see if we can get beyond these trees a little bit more. And I'm actually, unfortunately, getting the hand from my pilot who's saying we have to take it in right now. Unfortunately, Amy and Sarah, between those two pursuits, we exhausted all the fuel we have. But this one, we know that at least one person is in custody here. 4th Street near Park Center, just west of the 55 freeway.
All right, Desmond, thank you for that live coverage. We'll bring you an update on this story later on KCAL 9 News at 4 o'clock.